Well, hey guys, it has definitely been a while since I've been able to really put out a new video, and I think I owe the people that usually watch my videos a bit of an apology. Mainly because I just haven't been able to put them out for a little while. It's been one hell of a final quarter for me in my senior year of college here at OU, and I just, it's just been very difficult for me, and pretty much I'm putting out this video now to kind of get back into the swing. The quarter's starting to wind down. Finals are coming up, but after that the summer's coming around, and by that time I really hope to start putting out videos on a weekly basis, especially videos that are well scripted. Not to mention that I have a trip coming up to Italy, which I will be recording a lot of my experience there, as well as a lot of reviews from Italy, along with my good friend Ben, who you saw in the Tanner Tries Absinthe video. So that's stuff that you can really look forward to in the future, as well as a lot more scripted material that I've been working on, but just haven't really had the chance to come out and put them on, on the site. Well, here's the deal. Originally, I wanted to put out a video about the Avacyn Restored Prerelease, since Avacyn Restored just came out in the Innistrad blog and stuff, and I did a video for Dark Ascension, and I really kind of wanted to keep that going, especially since I'm a big Magic player. I live almost right next to Star City Games, and it's just a really fun experience. The problem with this is being, I was just so busy during, I went to Avacyn Restored Pre-Release. I actually had a lot of fun. I did a lot better than I did in Dark Ascension, a lot better, but ultimately I wasn't able to put together a video in enough time that it would actually be relevant to the pre-release, because by the time I was actually ready to make a video, Avacyn Restored had already been out for about a week. So I thought, okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to take some time. We're going to, let me gather my thoughts, get my bearings, and we're here now today to not just discuss Avacyn Restored, but to discuss the Innistrad block as a whole. And for the next couple of videos that I put out, for at least a little while, I kind of really want to look at the certain Magic blocks that have come out, such as like the Zendikar block, the Scars of Mirrodin block, the Kamigawa block, and I think we really need to start with this most recent one, the Innistrad block, which, by the way, I will go on record as to saying that the Innistrad block is my most favorite block. It is by far my favorite. Now, this has nothing to do with it being the best block or having the best cards in the series. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying on a personal level, for me, Innistrad is my favorite. I mean, I can't get enough of it. I love the storyline. I love the cards that they put out. I love building decks around them. Other blocks in the past have just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Zendikar was actually... I like Zendikar for the most part, but there were things that I had a problem with. Like, I thought the Eldrazi, even though they were so expensive on mana, were just a little too strong, and whenever somebody brought them out, it was pretty much a game ender. And the one that I can really think of the most is Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. Whenever I should say, came out, it was pretty much the game ender, or it was close enough. It was just, I felt the cards were way too strong for what was coming out. Scars of Mirrodin, I didn't really like at all, and actually I will have a video coming out with Scars of Mirrodin about my problems with it, but I'll even go on record right now as to say that if you want to really just annoy the shit out of me and you ever play me in a game of Magic, the quickest way to annoy the shit out of me is to beat me with Infect. I despise poison counters, and I honestly will go on record as saying I think that poison counters and Infect is the cheapest way to win in Magic, because there are a whole lot of card combinations you can use that can get you an easy win. And sure, they're cheap, but at least you put some thought into it. You have to play the game. Milling is another. People really don't like milling. They think it's a cheap way to win. I personally think that if you put a lot of thought and effort into milling, it's a really, I think it's a very effective way, and I think that's still a fine way to do it. In fact, especially if you start using Proliferate, I just I don't like it. I think it's a very cheap way to win. I think that in the grand scheme of things, I just despise it. I despise Infect. I despise the -1 counters. I just hate it. I always hate it, and I'm always going to hate it. And that's just the way I am, and that's going to stick with me. But I digress. We're going to go back to Innistrad. So today, what we're going to do, we're not going to look. Okay, we're going to look at some cards because I do have some cards over here that I'm going to show you guys to demonstrate my points. But we're not looking at individual cards, and we are not looking at the sets in general between Innistrad, Dark Ascension, and Avacyn Restored. What we're going to look at is the cards, you know, with like the effects that are actually pretty unique to Innistrad. And what we're going to start off with the things that are good, you know, the things that are really good about Innistrad, some of the things that are, I thought, very well done and very well used. We're going to move on to things that were okay. You know, they weren't great, but they also work very well, and I could almost see them using them in the future for different blocks. And then we're going on to the things that I thought out of the Innistrad block that are just plain bad. And there are a few that I just despise, and we'll get to those in a moment. But first, we're going to start off with a good. And I'm going to reach in here, and I'm going to pull out one of my the cards here. This is actually part of one of my deck. You'll see a couple of red sleeves. These are actually part of my, it's a red-white angel deck I built after Avacyn Restored. But this is one of them. And this is actually what I think is the best thing to come out of Innistrad. And it's not just because it just came out. I mean, I'm not even, past the honeymoon stage. I've taken a step back and looked at the properties of these cards, and I just think that this idea is just so unique and just so fantastic. I love it. And we are going to talk about, as you can see here, that is the card Bonfire of the Damned. And we are talking about miracle cards. Now, miracle cards in Avacyn Restored, if for people who are not very aware, you know, for Magic you have a certain mana cost that you have to spend in order to cast certain spells. And here's the thing, though, is that sometimes you're in that dire situation where you really need that to get you through. And there are cards like this that are like Bonfire of the Damned that are actually very expensive. Bonfire of the Damned, whenever it's not miracled, is you have to pay at least 1 red, and then you have to pay 2 colorless of anything to do damage to it. And that's like, you know, if you tap 6, you're doing 3 damage to creatures and players. It's basically what the card says. But for Miracle, if you draw it, if it's the first card you drew that round, then instead of paying a red and 2x, you're paying a red and 1x. So that 6, that 3 damage you're doing has now been turned to 6. And I love Miracle cards just for that reason, that sometimes there's those moments in those games where you just really need that draw. Like, you're on the ropes, you're getting hit hard. The guy might be at, you know, 20-some life, you're right now at 10, and he has a whole bunch of creatures. And then you draw that Miracle card, which is usually a 6-drop at that time. Thanks to the Miracle, it's just a 1-drop. One thing I'm thinking in general was, on the pre-release, my friend Matt was playing this guy named Taka, and Taka usually likes to play blue-white, and Matt pretty much had him on the ropes, dead to rights, and he pulled out Terminus. For anyone who doesn't know what Terminus does, it puts all creature cards that you have on the field on the bottom of your library. And that, you know, that actually turned the tide, and Taka was able to beat my friend Matt that day. And that's just what I love about Miracle cards, is that they're game changers, and they're quick game changers. So whenever you're, you know, your back's against the rope, you can pull out that Miracle card, and you can be like, bam! You know, the tide turns, and I just love it. I love the way that that's played. And I think, honestly, Miracle cards are the best thing to come out of the Innistrad block. And I'd even write to Wizards of the Coast to say, please, please, bring back Miracle cards for other blocks, because I just think they're that fantastic. We have 2 other cards over here that I think they're actually just fantastic from Innistrad, and we're going to go with this next group. And that is, as you can see here, this is the Tormented Pariah. You see the little, well, on this side here, the sun on the top. Let's go ahead and flip this, and he changes into a werewolf. I love these cards. I love flip cards. I don't normally play them, though, is the funny thing, is because I don't play werewolves. You know, in my Dark Ascension, I've even stated that I outright dislike green altogether. I just don't play green. It's not my style. It's never been my style, and it never will be. If you ever play me, prepared to see white, prepared to see other colors, never prepared to see green. I'm never going to use green. But even though I have this dislike for green, even though the majority of the flip cards are green, or a variation of green, Huntermaster of the Fells comes to mind, I love the idea. I love the idea so much of these flip cards that, you know, they start off kind of relatively weak, and then just with that one action, flip, and then it's this bigger creature, or it's this bigger thing, and I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, granted, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, because you have to have those, if you don't sleeve your cards, and you have to have those little cards where you mark them with a pin to show that you're playing the card before you pull it out. I mean, it's a little annoying, yeah, but I think I can kind of forgive that. I think it's a very great idea to actually have these flip cards, and I think it's just really ingenious. I don't expect to see it for other things, because I doubt they'll run with the werewolf, vampire, zombie kind of thing again. I mean, of course, they might have them, but I doubt we'll see flip cards again in the future. But it's one of these things that is pretty much unique to Innistrad that I just really like. One more of the from a very good category here, and this card is also from my deck, which is built around Gisela, if anyone's interested. And that is, and I'll show, Curse of Bloodletting. So we are talking about curses. Love curses. I love the idea of an aura that actually attacks you, that attacks the player. And the best thing about curses is, you know, you may run one or two in like one of your decks. Like for instance, the Gisela deck that I just showed, I just run Curse of Bloodletting, because if you throw Curse of Bloodletting, then you're doing double damage for a deck that does a lot of burn. That's key. That's very key. Now, here's the rub though. Build a deck completely around curses. Around Curse of Misfortune, Curse of Thirst, Curse of the Pierced Heart, Curse of Bloodletting, and you are just burning the shit out of these people. And then you can even throw Curse of Exhaustion, where you can only play one spell, and then you can throw in Curse of Echoes, Curse of the Bloody Tome, just all these fun little curses that just drive people sometimes nuts and can just fast burn them straight out of the game. And it's just a really great combination, and I love curses. I love them. I love targeting people. I love it whenever it targets people. And this, I think curses are probably going to go the way of traps. I don't think we'll see them in the future, but there is always that possibility that one of the blocks will use them again. And I really hope they do, because curses are just so much fun, and I think there's just, you know, a great part of this game, and a great part that Innistrad has brought to the table. Alright, now we're going to go to the things that are okay, because once again, usually I like to do good, bad, ugly. Well, this time, there's a whole lot of good, there's a whole lot of things that kind of work, and then there's a few things that I just dislike, but there's nothing in here that's just terrible. But I think this is going to be the exception to the rule, because I said we weren't really looking at cards as much. But there is one card that I think that we do need to talk about on this one. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because Wizards of the Coast, in their books, and their other things, made a big deal out of it. And that's the reason why I'm bringing it up. It's not because you know, we're talking about card effects here as far as the Innistrad block and what they brought to the table, but they made such a big deal out of this that I feel like it needs to be brought up. And so I'm going to bring it up now. And once again, this card is in my Gisela deck, but it's almost sideboarded, because I think this is the kind of general idea behind this card, but I'll show it anyway. We are looking at, as you can see here, Tybalt the Fiend-Blooded, the first ever 2-drop Planeswalker. Tybalt the Fiend-Blooded. I hate to say this, and the funny thing is whenever Tybalt came out, the reaction was a very resounding, he's not that fantastic. In the grand scheme of things, now granted, if you're running a Flashback deck, he's actually pretty good. Well, okay, he's not even that good. He's okay. Tybalt, That's the thing, though, is that he's just so... He's so bland. I mean, you're paying 2 for a Planeswalker, and you're getting what you paid for. You're getting the 2-drop Planeswalker. And it's not that fantastic. I think Tybalt's abilities are pretty mundane. They can be found in any other sets of cards. He starts off with 2 loyalty counters, so he's easy to be hit and just eliminated. You have to draw a card and then discard a card at random from your hand just to build him up to use his -4, which is he does damage to a player based on the amount of cards they have in their hand, or his -6, where you gain control of all the creatures and they gain haste. He's just not that good. I mean, granted, he's a 2-drop Planeswalker. I mean, oh yeah, fuck, 2-drop Planeswalker. The way to get a Planeswalker out there and just kind of, you know, he kind of hits a couple of quick jabs and he kind of goes away. I almost kind of compare him to Sarkhan the Mad in that he's okay to have, but he's not the best card out there. I think that Tybalt could have been a lot better. I think that Wizards actually, if they really could have thought about it, they could have built a card that was just unstoppable with this guy, a 2-drop Planeswalker that's just badass. And I think that they missed the ball here. I'm not going to say it's a good card. I'm going to say it's an okay card. And if you have it and you run red, especially if you run red-blue, yeah, I'd say go ahead and use them. But in the long run, Tybalt's just... he's not going to be that fantastic, and I think that was kind of a misnumber here. Okay. At the moment, I currently don't have a card sitting next to me right now, because I'll be 100% honest with you guys, I kind of forgot it. Sorry. But I want to do, real quick, talk about Flashback. Flashback is a very interesting concept where you play cards from from your graveyard and you exile them, and it's really fun, especially whenever you have those for instance, Burning Oil is a red-white, and then you flash it back, and it's a it's a red and a colorless, and then you flash it back, and it's a white and 3 colorless, and it makes you build decks kind of around Flashback so you get their full effects. I really do. I like Flashback, and that's kind of all I have to say about Flashback. And I'm not saying, as far as Flashback goes, I think it's actually a really good thing that Innistrad brought to the table, but I think you can kind of skip over it a little bit. It's a good quality. It's not a fantastic quality, but that's just my opinion. But we're going to move on now. Alright, here's another one. This card, just came from Avacyn Restored, and I'm already kind of tipping my hand here, because I've already talked about Miracles, but the other thing that Avacyn Restored brought to the table was, don't know if you see, that's the Near-Health Pilgrim, and we're going to talk now about Soul Bond. Soul Bond. Soul Bond is... it's a good concept. I mean, soul bonding 2 creatures with one another, pairing them off to get abilities. I like the idea. It's a good idea. And once again, this is why this is the okay area, because I like it. I do. I like the idea. It's just, I'm not in love with it. And I think that Soul Bond comes off as a little bit of vanilla. I don't think there will be a whole lot of people building Soul Bond decks, is pretty much what I'm saying. You'll have people building Miracle decks, you'll have people building Curse decks, you'll have people building Werewolf and Flip card decks. I can see people building cards around Tybalt. Soul Bond is a little different, just because it's just, I don't think it brings enough to the table to merit just a complete effect, I think it's going to enhance decks. I don't think it's going to reinvent them. But I do kind of think that Soul Bond might even is probably, out of all of these effects and things, probably the thing that I might most likely to see in future blocks is Soul Bond. So, that's about all I got to say here. Alright, here's another one. This one's a little bit fun. ever Nightshade. If you all don't know what he does, he's the same as Gerald Mind Crusher. We're going to talk now about Undying. Undying's, I actually do like Undying. I feel like it's kind of it can be annoying. Undying can be really annoying because it comes back and it gets that 1/1 counter on it. And I like the way that they've used Undying in a lot of these, what's the word I'm looking for? In a lot of these cards, like Gerald's Mind Crusher. Mill top, anytime he comes to the battlefield, mill 5 cards. Guess what? You kill him, he comes back with a 1/1 counter, mill 5 more. That card comes out in the field, unless you exile it, that's 10 cards you're losing right there. Same goes for the Hounds of Grizzlebrand. A double strike, he's a 2/2 double strike, so he's attacking for 4. Comes back Undying, now he's a 3/3, a 6/6, and you can just build on top of that, and that's, I like that. I like that idea. Undying, once again, it's a good concept, and I'm not taking anything away from this. This is not the bad section. I like it. It's just not enough to be part of the fantastic section of this. And that's about it for as far as good. We're going to now talk about the 2 things I dislike about Innistrad. And there are 2 things. And surprisingly enough, both of which have come from Dark Ascension. Well, okay, sorry, not surprisingly enough, I should have said. Because out of the 3, Dark Ascension was my least favorite, for obvious reasons. I love white. I play a whole lot of white. That's pretty much my primary color in almost every deck I've used. I've made a built 1 or 2 decks that were successful, I should say. 1 or 2 decks that were successful that did not involve white. But that's about it. So, that's a good reason for me not to like Dark Ascension for starters. But here is the 2 cards that came from Dark Ascension I just hate. Well, okay, I shouldn't say hate. Hate's a strong word. I don't hate them. Well, one of them I kind of do. But we're going to start with the one that I kind of see where they're going. I just don't really like it that much. This card right here, which is Wake Dancer, and we're going to talk about Morbid. I just don't like Morbid. I just don't. I mean, granted, it's a way to fit things into your second main phase to kill creatures or whatever. I just feel it's kind of cheap. I feel like anytime I've seen the Morbid effect, they've come out in a very cheap way. Oh, I killed one of your 1/1 tokens or something to that effect. Oh, well, now I'm using Morbid. Morbid to me is just the same as Infect. I just feel like it's very cheap. I feel like it's a very cheap way to get a lot for nothing. For instance, Tragic Slip. I hate that card so much. And I run it in a couple of decks. Even me running it, I feel dirty whenever I use Tragic Slip. Because it starts off 1/1. If you have a Morbid effect, it goes to a -13, -13. And I don't like it. I just don't. I feel it's very cheap. Once again, the argument can be made. Miracles could be very cheap. But just for some reason, I like Miracles a lot more than Morbid effects, because I just feel like Morbid just is a lot cheaper way to get something for, for a kill. For could have been a cheap kill. I'm contradicting myself a little bit. I know that, but it's just not my cup of tea. I don't like Morbid, and I'm not going to. But now, Morbid was an opinion. A very strong opinion of just me in personal and what I like and what I dislike about the series. And you can obviously argue that Miracle and Morbid can kind of go hand in hand. And I understand that completely. But this one right here, the last one, this one that I want to talk about, is one thing I just really dislike about Innistrad, and what I really dislike about Dark Ascension. And I made the point to get this white card here. Not the best of white cards, but still. And this is a Face Shield, and what Face Shield does is it's Fateful Hour. I'll be honest with you guys, I hate Fateful Hour. Fateful Hour is basically, whenever you're at 5 or less life, these cards over here get boosted into Uber mode. Like, I'll even read face counter for you. Target permanent you control gains protection from a color of your choice until end of turn. That's what it normally does. Not bad. Fateful Hour. If you have 5 or less life, instead you and each permanent you control gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Boost it up, just from one creature to every creature and yourself. Not bad. I don't like it. I don't like it. The reason I don't like it is because by the time you're down to 5 life, 9 times out of 10, you're hanging on by that thread. And even the miracle cards, which I said that I really love as much, probably won't help you. They probably won't. Once you're down to that 5 life, unless the other guy is at 5 life, you're pretty much circling the drain. And these 5 life and this Fateful Hour is going to do nothing but prolong it for a round. And I'm not even saying prolong it for enough time until you can actually do something to actually get back in the game. No, Fateful Hour is enough for you just to be like, I don't feel like dying this round, so I'm playing this. Next round, okay, I got nothing, you still win. I feel like Fateful Hour, I can see what they were trying to do, and I can see how it was going along with storyline for Innistrad, but just, no, I don't like it. I really dislike Fateful Hour. And there's really nothing that I can change about it, and it's also, whenever I'm talking about Fateful Hour, it's kind of already fleeting my mind. I think whenever people really think back about Innistrad, they'll definitely think about curses, they'll definitely think about flip cards, they're definitely going to think about miracles. They will think of Tybalt. I think they'll probably think more of Tomio instead of Tybalt, but they'll think about him. And they'll think about some of these other ones. I don't think people are going to think of Fateful Hour because not a whole lot of people have been able to really use Fateful Hour. Fateful Hour is one of those things that you're circling the drain, you're about dead, and you whip this card up just to kind of prolong your life, just that little bit longer. And I don't think it's worth it. And I don't think there's really any cards that really worth it. The only thing I can think of is increasing devotion, where you get 10 humans instead of the 5 humans at the card. It's a 5-drop, and even then, I'll be 100% honest. I ran that in my human deck, which I've recently converted to EDH, and I've never once ever used the Fateful Hour on that card. I just haven't. It just doesn't happen. There's just so few times where you can actually use Fateful Hour, and there's just so few times where it even really makes a difference. And I guarantee you, there are definitely people out there that are going to watch this video that said, there was a Fateful Hour that saved my life, there was this time where I was down to 2 life, the other guy was down to 5, and that Fateful Hour saved it. I'm not saying the Fateful Hours don't work. I'm sure they've worked before. I'm sure that that Fateful Hours have come in the clutch. I'm saying, generally speaking, Fateful Hours just really don't bring that big of an effect, and usually by the time you're down to 5 life, 9 times out of 10 you're about to be dead, and you're about to lose the game. That's just how it goes. But, I guess finally to wrap up, I love Innistrad block, and I think I've explained it well enough here. And I think from my opinion of being a Magic player and from going on with other things, I feel like I've discussed it very well. This is my opinion, of course. It's completely opinion, as always. And if you'd ever like to discuss it, feel free to comment or free fill a message. But, I guess for close, thanks for those of you who have actually watched my videos. Thanks for sticking in there. I promise I'll have a lot more material coming out. I promise it's going to be good stuff. As the summer rolls on, we're really going to kick it into high gear, and I'm really going to put out some really good stuff. So until that time, hey, I will see you later.